Are there any other announcements?
Good morning. I do the publication of the weekly blast. And the list that I've been going from apparently is faulty. Because I've been getting comments from people who wanted to get the blast, haven't been getting it. So I sent out an email yesterday asking that if you got that email to let me know so I don't have to futz with your entry into the computer. But if you didn't get the email, would you please leave an email address with the people here, and I will get it changed in the listing and see if we can get you going with the blast. Thank you so much for your cooperation.
Here comes Eric.
Good morning, I'm Eric. For what it's worth, I've got 4 containers like this of fresh picked mulberries, and I'll leave them downstairs afterwards if anyone wants fresh picked mulberries.
So one other item about communication is you should have gotten a postcard like this at the beginning of June. We send these out with the reminders of what's going on in the coming weeks. And so if you didn't get one of these, then you also need to give us your mailing address so that we can be sure to get you on the list for that. And then just a couple notes about the printed program today. The arrows are my feeble attempt to illustrate the theme, which is looking inward, looking outward. And the readings and songs were chosen to keep in mind. One is a Native American author, and Juneteenth tomorrow, and the summer solstice on Wednesday. So those are the kinds of things I had in mind in choosing the various components of the service today.
Do we have any other announcements? All right, and then we'll move on to our prelude.
See if that makes sense.
Now we'll have our chalice lighting. It was scattered, oops, wrong one. Here we go. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its visions change your heart. And today's first song will be number 65, The Sweet June Days. Please stand if you are able. It's number 65. Our first reading today is number 548. Summer Warmth, 548. I'll read the bold, if you'll please read the italics. We stand at the edge of summer.
The sun has at last warmed us enough that we begin to trust in His presence.
The last burst of spring blossoms, lavender and white and deep pink banks of rhododendron, are giving way to summer peonies and roses.
O source of the turning seasons,
On earth, of life, of promise gradually becoming fulfillment.
may your people find a lightening of the burdens with the brightening of the sky.
And next is our story for all ages.
You can come up front. I've got a book here called What Do You Do with an Idea? And this little yellow, it looks like a tick, is the idea. So, I've enjoyed reading this and thinking about it, and I think you'll enjoy it too. One day, I had an idea. Where did it come from? Why is it here, I wondered. What do you do with an idea? At first, I didn't think much of it. It seemed kind of strange and fragile. I didn't know what to do with it. so I just walked away from it. I acted like it didn't belong to me, but it followed me. I worried what other people would think. What would people say about my idea? I kept it to myself. I hid it away and didn't talk about it. I tried to act like everything was the same as it was before my idea showed up. But there was something magical about my idea. I had to admit, I felt better and happier when it was around. It wanted food. It wanted to play. Actually, it wanted a lot of attention. It grew bigger, and we became friends. So, the idea is going around on your back. I showed it to other people, even though I was afraid of what they would say. I was afraid that if people saw it, they would laugh at it. I was afraid they would think it was silly. And many of them did. They said it was no good. They said it was too weird. They said it was a waste of time, and that it would never become anything. And at first I believed them. I actually thought about giving up on my idea. I almost listened to them. Look at, she's walking away. But then I realized, what do they really know? This is my idea. No one knows it like I do. And it's okay if it's different and weird and maybe a little crazy. I decided to protect it, to take care of it. I fed it good food. I worked with it. I played with it. But most of all, I gave it my attention. My idea grew and grew, and so did my love for it. I built it a new house, one with an open roof where it could look up at the stars, a place where it could be safe to dream. I liked being with my idea. It made me feel more alive, like I could do anything. It encouraged me to think big, and then to think bigger. It shared its secrets with me. It showed me how to walk on my hands, because it said, it is good to have the ability to see things differently. So she's walking on her hands and everything looks upside down. I couldn't imagine my life without it. And then, one day, something amazing happened. My idea changed right before my very eyes. It spread its wings, took flight, and burst into the sky. I don't know how to describe it, but it went from being here to being everywhere. It wasn't just a part of me anymore. It was now a part of everything. And then I realized, what do you do with an idea? You change the world. So, don't be afraid to have ideas, even if they're different, because they're yours. Okay, thank you. Now we'll sing. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
In this congregation, we found it helpful to share the ups and downs of our lives by the practice of taking a stone from a bowl, holding it in our hand, warming it, and expressing our thoughts of joy and our concern, and then placing the stone in the water so that the ripples of the water carry our joys and concerns out into the wider world. I'll take this stone to represent the Matos concert last night. Several of us from the congregation were here, and we had a great time in spite of the rain.
Hi, I'm Steve. I have a joy and a concern. My sister, who I haven't seen in 6 years, and whose contact is usually a couple awkward phone calls a year, is coming to South Dakota for 2 weeks. So I'm gonna get a chance to see her, which is a joy. And it's a concern because yesterday she asked if she could stay at my house for those 2 weeks.
Oh,
This is my very conservative, very Christian sister who has no clue that her younger brother has been an atheist for 15 years. It could be interesting.
I can understand this. Interesting is the right word. Because we could very much be kind of opening up. I'm Scott, I'm sorry. I've been facing a few things. One is I have a cousin who has a type of bone cancer that actually destroys the organs. And he's not doing well. He doesn't say it, but he doesn't have a lot longer. I'm facing a sinus infection. I think since you have great pain in my face for about 2 months now. Dealing with that is one thing, but the exhaustion from dealing with that is beginning to become a real problem. And I got a good solid centimeter of rain last night. My trees are so happy.
I want to say I'm very grateful to the church because some people and good people supported me. I was in the hospital and nobody found anything wrong with me, which is disconcerting. But I'm out and happy and in church today, and happy Father's Day. It's a great day for me. I never thought I would be a father, and I trust I've been a good one. So happy Father's Day.
There, I'm Joe. We have a joy to share, my family and I do. We traveled to Omaha last weekend and we visited First Unitarian Church while we were there. And what a lovely church it is. It's beautiful. It was built as a Unitarian church, I believe, which is somewhat unusual. I imagine this building was not built as a
no.
No, sure, yep. And so, if you get a chance, they do have a pipe organ, although their organist retired the week before there, so they'll time it a bit that way. But just know that our community here and how we do things fits our family significantly more than what we had down there. It was lovely and nice, but you guys are real cool. So.
Sarah's a parishioner there too, former reverend here.
She is.
Well, I'm looking forward to being in Montana before the end of this month, and several things going on. I'm going to celebrate with fellow classmates, a 50th high school class reunion. We
Oh my
get
God.
to our high school this year. We're also, my wife and I are looking forward to celebrating 80th anniversary of Flathead Lutheran Camp where we met. I worked 5 summers for that camp. I worked 3 summers. Anyway, we're going to go to that. And then we're hopefully with some relatives in northern Idaho. And then with my brother and his daughter and her boyfriend ride about 8 days. That includes overnights on mostly Forest Service roads, about 200 miles from Whitefish to Helena by bike.
Wow.
Oh
I
my.
was part of that last summer. Well, I've ridden other sections of it too, but we tried to do the whole thing.
Hello, I'm Dean. I just have a concern, well, somewhat of a concern. I lost one of my cousins here this last week. And seeing as how she is probably one of over 100 first cousins that I have, what makes her so special is that she was raised on a farm that was a half a mile away from ours. There was 5 girls there and then four in our family. Of that 9, I'm the sole survivor now. So I guess I get to write the history of the family because I'm the only one. Nobody can prove me wrong, you know. Probably come the 4th son. Well, anyhow, that's my concern. It's more of a celebration of life. She's 90 years old and she had a very good life.
First, a stone for Mato and his mother. Last night's concert, and Clara said that she had to take them to the airport at 3 o'clock this morning because they were flying to Toronto and going from the airport to the venue to perform today. So apparently it's a daytime concert up there. And I could put in half a dozen stones for all of you that helped usher last night on behalf of All Souls. That was awesome. And a stone for the Supreme Court for reaffirming the Indian Child Welfare Act.
Here's one last time for all those joys and concerns that are in our hearts, that are unexpressed, and for those that have been expressed. And now we'll just take a moment of silent reflection on what's been said today. Our next song is going to be one of the smaller songbook that we call the Teal Hymn Book. And the number is 1014, Standing on the Side of Life. Please stand if you are.
Oh,
Now we'll have our second reading, which is number 495. And let's say this all together. Hear me, four quarters of the world, or relative of my command. Give me the strength to walk the soft earth. Give me the eyes to see and the strength to understand. Look upon these faces of children without number, that they may face the winds and walk the good road to the day of quiet. This is my prayer. Hear me.
Just realized that I had the mic on during that last song. I hope I wasn't too distracted. Does anybody have a good dad joke? I knew you would, Scott.
How do you know if it's a dad joke?
How do you know if it's a dad joke?
It's bad.
Another one?
All of my dad jokes are in a database.
Oh!
All of those dad jokes are in the database. Thank you.
What do you got if a dinosaur walks in your garden?
If a dinosaur walks in your garden, what do you get?
Squash.
Thank you. That's all. Happy Father's Day. Dads who are here. I'm going to preface this with something that isn't really related to the title, but a little bit about language. So to give our All Souls family a broader appeal, especially for persons who have been turned off or even hurt by traditional religion, if you remember the presentation by Regina Bruns a few weeks ago, we need to use language carefully. And so at our last board meeting, we approved some changes of language. Instead of worship service, these are called Sunday morning programs. And instead of religious education, we call it lifelong learning. And instead of committees, we're saying teams. They say that people join the church for community and we put them on a committee. So instead, we're putting them on a team. Some other language, this wasn't discussed by the board, but these are preferences of mine, which I'll just share for what it's worth. Instead of hymnal, I like to call that gray thing a songbook. And instead of singing hymns, we sing songs. And this one, instead of a bulletin, we can call this a printed program, because bulletin has the word bullet in it. And I think it that's probably the etymology of it. It was meant to be a piece of information that was up to the minute. And that's not what we get in these are printed programs. So we don't need the violence of bullets. So, for what it's worth. And then as you use, we focus more on not so much what we believe, but how we live. And so that's why we have the principles. And there's a lot of diversity in our beliefs. And so we have atheists and Buddhists and people with a Jewish heritage and many with a Christian background. And I think about an agnostic, and I think about the phrase agnostic Christian or Christian agnostic and which one is better to describe some of us. And so it's the noun that counts. And so if you say that you're an agnostic Christian, then your fundamental identity is Christian. You happen to be an agnostic Christian. But on the other hand, if you say Christian agnostic, then that means that it's basically you're an agnostic, but you happen to like some Christian teachings or the life of Jesus. So anyway, that's something to reflect on. And of course, a lot of us are still in process and prefer not to have any labels at all. So to the subject of looking inward and looking outward, a wise professor talked about the journey inward and journey outward, and he would draw a great big figure 8 on the board, and, referring to the idea that the more inward we go in terms of self-care and nurturing our spirit and managing stress and preventing burnout in our lives, that's the journey inward. The better we do that, the better we can take care of others. And so the deeper we go into ourselves, the more energy we'll have for others. And the deeper you go into your spirit in here, the wider will be your impact out there. And the old saying that you should put your own oxygen mask on before you try to help somebody else with theirs. In a larger sense, on a community-wide scale, the civil rights movement was undergirded by prayer and singing and teaching. And that was part of the inward journey that they had at their best. And so there was teaching and there was self-discipline and self-restraint that was required to have a non-violent movement. And so that's another example of that journey inward that was very powerful in making mountains move out in the world. And so the effectiveness of balance between that journey inward and journey outward. Then moving to our own local community of faith here at All Souls, or our church family, as I like to say. We're nearing the end of our fiscal year, and some nonprofits are advertising on the radio that they still need money to end the year in the black. And I'm happy to share with you the fact that at our board meeting on Thursday, we found out that we've had to borrow very little from our reserves this year. And the main thing was when we resurfaced the parking lot. But otherwise, we've been able to meet our bills successfully. And that's a huge piece of good news. And our African congregation who comes in and rents from us has renewed their lease for the next 12 months. And 2 other smaller groups have expressed interest in meeting here, one on a weekly basis and one on a monthly basis. So our building is being utilized by the community in that way. We recently completed a successful stewardship campaign, and it ended with 10% higher than our goal. Some other successes from the past year are the fact that we got children's programming up and running. And we went from having about 2 every Sunday to 10 or more on many Sundays. We have a meditation group that now meets every Sunday. And now in the summertime, as you may know or should know, on the first Sunday of each month, we're moving the meditation group out to Great Bear. And so we call it walking meditation, and it's at 8:30 instead of 9:15. So just to note that meditation is every Sunday through the summer, but on the first Sunday of the month, it's out at Great Bear. We've also started a care team to reach out to people with particular concerns in their lives. And a year ago, we went through an important transition in leadership. I usually don't like to name names, but this time I'm going to make an exception to that principle. When I started serving here as minister 2.5 years ago, it was during the pandemic, and we were not meeting in person. So I hadn't met a lot of you at all, and so I started making phone calls to introduce myself by phone, and had lots of good conversations. And one is particularly memorable when someone who, I don't even recall who it was, but it doesn't really matter because it's the content that matters to me. They said, in talking about our church leadership, that when we had Kevin and Eric and Ken in those positions on the church board, it was like having the Dalai Lama as our leader. And so last year at this time, we had the difficult task of replacing all of those three gentle souls, and we navigated that transition in leadership successfully by finding very able persons to replace them. Then this next part I really like. This is again part of the looking inward at ourselves at All Souls. We don't want to do this too often, but once in a while I think it's good. So 3 months ago in March, when there was still lots of snow on the ground, not just that little pile that you see on the front of the program, I asked you to write down on a piece of paper what I appreciate about All Souls. And so here's what you said, in no particular order and without any editing. I don't have to hide myself. Fellowship, singing, music. We like the emphasis on acceptance. No creed. The size of the congregation. Friends, acceptance. I like the open-mindedness and the rejection of original sin in a triune God. Found friends. Acceptance. The gathering of people. I appreciate feeling welcome. I like the spirit of all being accepted. No judgment. Supporting the community. Fellowship. Friendliness, hopefulness, and optimism. Spirit play in children's services. Welcoming atmosphere and friendly congregation. I enjoy the open-minded people and the variety of viewpoints. I appreciate acceptance of diversity and learning something new at most services. I like the stimulation of ideas in our service, lots to think about. What I like is the kind, friendly, and very welcoming people in All Souls Church. The message of acceptance and generosity, the warmth here. I appreciate the positive message given from a humble perspective. Consistent welcome to all. Variety of programs, excellent piano, adherence to principles. My family and I are new to All Souls. I like it that there is no judgment. I am a single parent and just want to be accepted. I like everything about this church. Almost brings tears to my eyes. So, we have a lot to celebrate here at All Souls. And I'm very thankful to be sharing these things with you today. And what about the look outward? In other words, what good can we do in the larger community besides celebrate what a great place we have here and what a great church family we are? Well, I look back at a document from several years ago when there was a process of looking at a strategic planning group. And they asked themselves, who are our neighbors? And there were apparently 12 people at that meeting. And they said, anybody. We see worthiness in all. Our members, the economically disenfranchised, everyone, the people next door, down the block, and the world community. Who isn't our neighbors? It implies everybody. Spirit of Peace Church, the Free Thinkers, the Rapid City UU Fellowship. Sioux Falls, the majority of which is Christian. It includes the medical community, two-job families, arts, and culture. People of Jewish faith, the LGBT community, seekers, chance encounters. So we could make our own list today. It might include a lot of those and a lot of others. We see a lot of needs around us. We have a lot of opportunities here in our wider community. Sometimes we're tempted to try too hard, tempted to take on too much. So with some hesitation, I'd like to just share 3 areas which in my mind are worthy of our collective efforts. And you might have others that you see as important as well. But these are 3 kind of highlights that I'd like to bring before you this morning. First of all, children. We can point to the success of our Spirit Play program this past year and build upon that foundation. We had tremendous commitment from the parents, not only in bringing the children faithfully, but also when our leader had to step back from this responsibility for health reasons, the parents stepped up to lead the final 6 sessions in the spring. Without hesitation, everyone that I asked said yes. And our commitment to children is shown in the budget that we passed for the coming fiscal year when we budgeted a much larger amount for child care. So we're offering child care throughout the summer months to make sure that families know that their children are welcome, even if there's no specific educational program. Children are welcome at all souls. And for the coming year, we're looking into what kind of programs we want to offer, and one of them is called Our Whole Lives. Many of you are familiar with it. It's OWL for short. And you know, the owl is said to be a wise bird, so it's an appropriate acronym. Some of you have been leaders for OWL in the past, and what it is a program that was put together by the Unitarian Universalist Association in cooperation with the United Church of Christ. And locally that means Spirit of Peace and First Congregational Church are our partners, and so we're working with them to put together this program in the fall, mainly for middle school and high school students. And it's a program that focuses on healthy relationships for kids, including sexuality, and a holistic approach to relationships and friendships. And so it's not only an opportunity for us and for our youth, but also to work with these 2 partner congregations. And it becomes an outreach because, you know, kids in school always talk about things with their friends. And so there will most likely be kids who want to bring a friend, and that's a wonderful thing. And so that becomes another form of outreach for us, that we can be a benefit to the community in that way. And so you'll hear more about OWL in the future. So children are a major focus of our looking inward and looking outward. Another focus was brought to our attention by Mike Huber a few Sundays ago when he led us through, instead of giving a message, which a lot of us expected him to do, he led us through a process of zeroing in on something that could be an important focus for us. And so in that process, we landed on the justice system as a place where we'd like to learn more and possibly learn how to make an impact. And so the first concrete step in that process is finally scheduled for July 30th, when we'll have a presentation about the LINK, which is the triage center that was started a year ago or 2 years ago, in cooperation between the local county and police departments, and also Sanford and Avera, to have a place to bring people who have issues around mental health and addiction as an alternative jail. And so we'll learn more about the link on July 30th. And that's something that is very much anticipated and an opportunity to learn more about the justice system. And another way that we're impacting, which Peter may have mentioned last Sunday, and that is the fact that he and Mike have been teaching yoga at the prison for I don't know how long. And so that's another important outreach of All Souls that happens quietly week after week. The third place of focus, I would direct your attention to the mural up front, which we see every Sunday when we walk in the door. And we are subconsciously inspired by that piece of art created by Jerry Fogg, depicting Sioux Falls in ancient history, a kind of a mythical picture showing the river and the native people who were here long before any of our European ancestors. And so our focus on Native Americans actually is broader than we might realize when we stop to think about it. We sent holiday care packages to Rosebud Reservation for a few years now, and we helped supply t-shirts more recently at Standing Rock. The photos and the thank you cards are still out in the foyer where you can enjoy seeing the response and the smiles on the faces of those students. We've supported Urban Indian Health. We brought in speakers on Native American Sunday year after year. We know that in the larger Unitarian Universalist Association, the need to struggle with issues of racism is an important priority for them, and it often is focused around relations between blacks and whites. But here in South Dakota, I feel like in terms of racism, we're on it. Here at All Souls, we honored Mako and his mother, Clara, last Sunday in an unforgettable event. And I could apologize for not being there, but I had a prior commitment with the Iowa Lakes Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Okoboji, and so I wasn't here, but I knew that it would go off very well, which it did because of all of your commitment and responsibility and generosity and dedication. And so I know that it's not about me. And I take as my guide in terms of leadership these famous words from Lao Tzu in his Tao Te Ching, where he wrote, "A leader is best when people barely know he exists. When the work is done, the aim fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves." And so that's how I could be absent last Sunday and have a clear conscience. It's not about me. Not only that event, but we made this space available for Mako's band to rehearse on Tuesday evening. I was thrilled when I heard that. And then half a dozen of you showed up. An hour early last night to be ushers at the concert. And we're supporting WOOTK, if that's how it's pronounced, with half of our plate offering once again today, as we have throughout this month and last month. It's a nonprofit that was started by Mako's father, Michael Standing Soldier, a year before he died. And it helps Native Americans coming out of the justice system and re-entering society. We've raised $600 so far. At the board meeting on Tuesday, someone suggested we set a goal of 1,000. I thought that was a good idea. We have today and next Sunday for that effort. And so, our relationships with Native Americans, there may be other examples, but those are the ones that came to my mind, the things that we're already doing, and there may be more that we can do as an emphasis in the coming year. So, I don't have an eloquent conclusion, but I think this past week, bracketed by the reception last Sunday and concert last night, will be one that we'll remember for a long time with pride. May it be so for us. Be careful.
We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another.
Here it's time. We have time for our last song. So this is number 149. Lift every voice and sing.
Let us find love to live with. There's one. Where the white gleam of our is cast.
That one's for Juneteenth. It's called the Black National Anthem.
And now the words to extinguish the chalice. The chalice is extinguished,
But the light goes with us out into the world.
Snacks downstairs, conversations everywhere. Oh, are we having further discussion? 11:20.